Hello everyone, this is Here's Trivia, and welcome back to our Subscriber Game Tournament Season 4 as we continue here with Round 1 action in Group A. This is the second match between R1A2 versus R1A2, which I believe is just Vietnamese for Simply Zero, a tribute to our Season 1 champ Zero, who is in the same group actually. And taking a look at the composition before we head into battle, starting with the R1A2, we have a composition full of infantry unit across the board, empowered by Yuan Shao, who's going to give that distant courage ability to turn all these units into near unbreakable unit with 50 points of morale, as long as Yuan Shao can stay out of combat. Now, Sima Yue is a very interesting choice. He does have some splash abilities, I believe, that can damage units, and he's bringing Saber Infantry, which is a solid choice against other infantry options, even though I don't think they're that particularly strong. And then finally, we close the ranks with Yan Baihu, who's bringing a lot of very cheap spear infantry. I think the whole concept of this composition is just cheap unit, spam a lot of them, empower them with Yuan Shao, and then use the two other generals with their damaging ability, Poison Volley, and I believe Flame of the Phoenix to deal damage to the enemy composition. Now, on the other side, we have Simply Zero. I'm going to call him that to not butcher his name. And he has a composition that is full cavalry, bringing Yuan Shao as well, so we have a mirror matchup of Distant Courage. Although I think Distant Courage is better applied by Art of Total War, since it does boost 50 points of morale, it's better to bring cheap units with that. Here with Simply Zero, we have pretty expensive cavalry unit, and is trying to bet on the fact that the enemy does not bring a lot of anti-cav, which is unfortunately not the case here, since we have 9 spear units on the other side. His other generals, we have Sun Jian, who has Flame of Phoenix. I think Sun Jian is basically an improved version of Sima Yue. And he's also bringing Handmade Guard, which provides a guard passive that protects generals by 25% damage resistance if they stay close together. So that could be a pretty strong factor in dictating which side's generals win out. Now, the final choice here in He Jin is probably not based on how strong He Jin is, because he's not very strong. It's mainly to spam those Imperial Lancer cavalry. Now, these units are definitely very strong, but they're very expensive, and running them up against cheap spears, I would say the cheap spears would win if they're positioned well and they're braced. Then you can return their high charge damage back to them. If you can catch the low tier spear units off guard when they're moving, when they're facing the wrong direction, then they can easily use their high charge damage and just wipe them out in one solid charge. So we'll see how they're applied. This is definitely a showcase of skills. Distant Courage is strong, but it's not easy to use. And you can definitely rely on Sun Jian to clear some of these infantry on the Art of War side. So we'll see how this matchup plays out on the battlefield. Now, as we load into the match here, the deployment's pretty normal on both sides, as they have their unit up on the deployment box. No one's Vanguard deploying anything. And this is going to be an interesting battle between full cavalry comp versus pretty heavy spear composition. Similar generals, we have Yuan Shao as a mirror matchup, both bringing their Distant Courage, which is his key ability that can boost... Actually... No, not friendly. I was like, can they activate each other's familial conflict? That'd be really funny, but they can't. Distant Courage is the main thing here, giving extra charge bonus and extra morale. I guess one side, with Art of Total War, the purpose of this is more to boost the morale. And on the other side, I think with Simply Zero, the purpose is to take advantage of the melee charge bonus, since he went full cavalry. So two different interpretations of the same ability, and see which one comes out ahead. Now, Sima Yue and Sun Jian, like I mentioned, are very similar. They're both sentinels. They have very similar weapons, being a sword, and they both have Flame of the Phoenix. So they both have ability to smash enemy units around. Yan Baihu is going to try to get real sneaky, because there is no vision provider on the other side, but there's also no good target, because Poison Volley does per unit health damage. So if we hit a 120 unit infantry, we have 120 times his poison damage, which is actually quite low. But if you hit a cavalry, it's 30 times the damage. So doing about 1/4 the damage on a unit model that has a lot more per unit health. So it's not going to kill too many things. So this is definitely not a good army for Yan Baihu to hunt. But aside from that, there's so many spear units with the spam of the Yue tribesmen and even some of the Ji infantry on Yuan Shao. We'll see how this matchup plays out. And then obviously these two crossbows are going to be important too. because you have high armor piercing damage that can hit into these very expensive Imperial Lancer who rely heavily on their shield to kind of avoid some of the enemy return fire. But in this case, against cavalry, shot cavalry against crossbow, it's going to favor the crossbow for sure. So as the cavalry move up, we have the spears moving out to meet them. I wonder how the general is going to be used. I'm going to go top down for now. I mean, it cannot be a head-on charge. You have to split this up, but then with the ability circles, you kind of want to keep Shao, boosting all your units. There's just not a lot of vulnerable targets on this side. Crossbow in the back, spear in the front. I mean, you might want to create like 2 fronts, easier to control as well. Or maybe rush the general to force the respawn so they move their unit. So for example, maybe charge a few cavalry at the general, and then when the units start moving, you can charge the rest into the unit so they're not braced, and then you can take advantage of the super high charge bonus. And if you get the 50% on distant courage, I'm guessing this is going to hit like 600? Close to 600. Let's see what it is. 597. Yeah, that's incredible damage. So definitely 2 different interpretations of using distant courage. Very interesting take. Having the melee cav tank the crossbow, not a bad idea. Yeah, they're trying to get the generals. Yamahu trying to get a shot here, but like I said, it's not going to do that much, even if he does land it. So it's interesting to see how he responds there. He's trying to move into a weird angle. They should be able to see him, at least very soon. Ooh, does this have to be the case? I don't think the crossbow will do that much if we don't show the Imperial Cav, but it is a clean hit. Definitely an easy wipe. We'll take those, and we'll see how the other units respawn. They're going to get out. That's the wrong way to run. Just clear this way. Yep, okay, they're fine. It's the green command. I was getting confused. They're coming back. Yamaihu is exposed. I don't know if this one single line command is going to do it. It's going to take a lot more micro than that. But the punish right now is just 1 crossbow, so it's fine. And I think they can even stand here and fight, because Handmade Guard does give that guard passive. Oh, but what are we trying to do here? Why are we getting tangled with infantry? That is a bad decision. He's trying to do a smash. Even though he got it into a saber, it's not worth it, because now you can't get out, and that unit's pretty much dead. Okay, he's trying to smash out the last crossbow. This is a bad... They're just getting sucked into this. Why? This should be avoided. We got the poison volley. It hit a couple things. It's not going to do too much. But yeah, these 2 cavalry were thrown away. The general trying to clear out the crossbows. Like, the crossbow is never going to wipe out this unit. Okay, they're trying to do multi-diff angles on the Yuan tribesmen. The problem is, we're going to have someone hit Yuan Shao, or else they have too high of a morale, and you pretty much have to kill them to rout them. You can see how stable they are, even though they lost 2/3 of their units. And now the cavalry need to get out. The cavalry cannot stay in sustained fight. They got to abuse the charge. Yeah, the command's not clean. They didn't round the formation. They keep getting units tangled in with the enemy unit, and that's just losses that doesn't need to happen. Like, a super expensive unit loses 5 units, which is like 1/6, even more 6 units, 1/5 of the army, 20% gone, just by touching, super cheap infantry. They should be charging this, not the stable ones. Yeah, full cavalry comp takes a lot of micro to make it work. Even against AI, especially against AI, who can micro their units and have full stops instantaneously. The Handmade Guard's being thrown around. They should just charge whatever's moving. They're trying to get kills on generals, I know. But throwing Yuan Shao in here kind of defeats the purpose. Yuan Shao should not be fighting. There's just nothing valuable here. Sun Jian should just stay and kill this thing. Everyone else should move to one side, because you're not really gaining anything here. Like, we're getting the split screen. You can see how hard it is for us to maintain the camera, much less you microing all the units at the same time. Yeah, Sun Jian can go in there and finish this. I think they're too freaked out about 2 crossbows. It's cost them a lot more than what crossbow would have cost them. These are open targets, but instead they just really want to kill crossbows, which, yeah, that's the trap here. Throw away 3 Imperial Cavalry to kill a crossbow. And then over here, everyone's being dragged together in command. You can see this is probably a group command. Everyone's trailing towards one target, and they're actually getting kind of intercepted, even though the charge is enough to kind of hit them as they move through. It's like, as the speared side, you don't need to have too many micro commands. You're wasting a lot of unit movement, and it's still not punishing you, because these vulnerable ones aren't getting hit. Now, are we getting any good general action? Anyone dismounting? Sun Jian's dismounted. I don't think he meant... Oh, maybe they meant to dismount. We have an answer. He's on his horse. He is dismounted. Okay, so we can see that Simply Zero kept Yuan Shao on his horse to make sure he can maintain safety distance if he needs to pull out with Distant Courage. He's currently in combat. He needs to pull out. But over here, Art of Total War has dismounted all his generals, it seems. And they're trying to get Wax. They're chasing Yuan Shao to make sure he can't activate Distant Courage. So they went the long way to hit this saber on the other side. I think they had charged negate. You can see this saber didn't take any damage. They frontal charged it. It just doesn't work that way. You have to hit whatever's moving. Even though there's no charge reflect, you're not getting punished back, but you're just doing no damage. He Jin is not dismounted. He Jin cannot get out of this as these three just make quick work of him. He is going to go down. Yuan Shao is trying to pull Distant Courage. Not enough as he goes negative even with the extra boost. Yeah, the remaining cavalry heavily depleted. Cannot win sustained fights against Saber Calves. Distant Courage comes back from Art of Total War's Yuan Shao. General still pretty healthy. Trying to land some charge. Yeah, see this one, they're getting some damage on him because it's coming from different directions. It's not all charge negated. But then you can't get out clean because Yuan Shao actually get in combat, which is a big mistake. You can see the flickering on and off of the Distant Courage, and that's why one unit routed. If he stayed out of combat, then they wouldn't rout, or at least use this ability to make sure that if he is going to jump in there. And he really shouldn't be part of the fight, because if he deactivates his Distant Courage, then the 50% charge goes away as well. That defeats the whole purpose of this build. So now our Total War just going to hover. Desperate attempt. Yuan Shao trying to shut down Yuan Shao's own Distant Courage. I mean, this is a double-edged sword. If you shut them down, then you also shut down your own. So, yeah, this is not going to work. But this is, yeah, this is the only thing. That's the only general he has left. And the rest of the cavalry gets killed because he is technically in combat. You're sending him to chase after someone. And the rest is just a slow kill. It's definitely a mismatch composition. You ran into something that counters you completely, trying to go all cav. You're trying to catch someone by surprise, basically. Either works beautifully or it doesn't. But in this case, even if it wasn't this composition, I think with the way it was microed, it was not done well. The concept was there with the bonus to the Distant Courage on the shock, on the, I guess, in the initial charge, but it wasn't executed well. Now we just have a slow kill on the general. Now, time is a factor, so giving up is definitely not recommended. So we'll see a lot of players fight to the very end, unless they really lose patience, which does happen from time to time. But yeah, there's nothing fast on the unit, so they have to use the three generals to chase down. There's no other option. Just be a matter of time before Yuan Shao goes down here. Now, Simply Zero is not just giving up completely. He's still charging, trying to get some kills. Routing a unit. But too little, too late. As we get the kill and the victory. Let's take a look at the counts. Casualty numbers here. So, yeah, the cavalry, you know, they did do damage. But if you're trading 1 for 1.25 of a unit, given the price difference, it's really not close. And even though you see like 100, let's say 66 number on this side, this super cheap unit killing 24 is almost an entire cavalry unit. And that's just not a smart investment trade for this side. You have to basically poke and prod, probably with Sun Jian, to go in there and get some kills. And after you get those kills and get the enemy to respawn by moving at you, you sent the cavalry and maybe one unit at a time. Group commands for cavalry is really wasteful because they overlap their charge and you end up getting a very clump group and no one really get efficient charges. So it's just a very difficult army to micro, and definitely focus way too hard on these two crossbow. Yes, they do seem scary, but the answer after that first really clean charge, which is how this unit got 54 kills, is just pull them out, let Sun Jian go in there and get some kills, or just move two of the generals together with a handmade guard, get some kills on the crossbow, force them to respawn. If they start pulling back towards the crossbow, then maybe answer it with the, charge through the Imperial Cav. That did not happen as they get tangled up. As the two units split on both sides, they got tangled into formation. And in the end, there's just too much wear and tear on a very expensive army that can't afford it. And the battle was over from there. So, very good match. We'll come back and continue with Group A action next. One more match for today. And we'll see how that one goes. So until then, bye.